Is your mic?
Recording in progress.
Mike?
And the mic is on. Okay, we're all here. We're starting, and we're going to call the meeting to order. Payam is on his way, but we're going to move ahead anyway. Is there any? We're going to open the consent agenda, which basically is the minutes from last time. It's been a while. Is there any member of the public that would like to discuss anything on the consent? And it looks like.
Hi,
Hi.
Shelley Schmidt, former ARC member from 2020 to 2024. As a former planner for Santa Barbara County and a former planner and code enforcement officer for Monterey County, you know, the hard work that staff and the commission puts in, the committees put in evaluating all projects and questions. And as some of you may know, some may not know, I recently accepted an appointment to the NCIP for my neighborhood and would have happily stayed on ARC had that opportunity not arisen. And I just wanted to extend my thanks to both staff and my former fellow committee members. Every interaction I had with each and every one of you was very professional, very friendly, very courteous. I enjoyed my time immensely on ARC. It was an honor and a pleasure to work with all of you. And I'm going to miss you guys. And I'm going to miss the ARC process. I still get really excited whenever I drive around town and I see projects that we've approved and they're in the middle of being constructed. I get real excited. I'm like, oh, we approved that. We approved that. We changed this. And I just wanted to let you know that what you guys do matters and I appreciate it. And that's it. Thank you so much for making my first foray into community service on this end so enjoyable and pleasant.
Thank you, Shelley. And yeah, thanks for your service. And I've always enjoyed working with you and enjoyed your professionalism and thoughtful process during your tenure here. So thank you for doing that and good luck with your neighborhood project stuff. That's awesome. Okay, anybody else, public comments about the consent item?
There are no attendees with their hands raised online, but I will remind the public how to participate and information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or by telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government. And also staff present today are Principal Planner Fernanda Roveri, Planning Manager Levi Hill, Associate Planner Matthew Buggart, and Senior Associate Planner Christy Sabdo, and Recording Secretary Spencer Argenbright.
Thank you, Spencer. Is there any committee comments on the minutes or anything on the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as stated.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain would probably be Gabe because he wasn't here for that meeting for those minutes. And we're going to move on to item number 1. Hold on. I'm going to open the floor to anybody in the public that would like to speak on any item that is not on today's agenda, either in the building here or online. Spencer, is there anybody online with their hands raised?
There are no attendees with their hands raised.
Okay, so now we're going to move on actually to item number 3, consider 844 Terry Street. And it looks like we've got Matthew up.
Yes, I will share my screen. Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Bogert, and I'm an associate planner with the City of Monterey's Planning Division. Today, we're here to talk about 844 Terry Street for an architectural review permit for a 2-story addition and an associated tree removal permit. The recommendation from city staff is that the ARC adopt the resolution to approve both the AR permit and the tree removal permit with conditions of approval. The subject property is in the New Monterey neighborhood on the northwestern side of the city. You can see in this photo that there are 2 parcels indicated here. The property owner has already merged these parcels and recorded with the county. So this is effectively 1 parcel for this project. The front elevation with the story poles, it is a single-story house right now, white with black trim, and the addition pops over the top part. This is the overall parcel, and you can see the former parcel dash on the right side. The existing residence down here on the left, the addition area would be to the right, and a paved patio area to the rear. There's also an existing garage on site, 238 square feet. As part of the project, they would demolish the existing fireplace, they would remove the rear deck, and they would remove a 16-inch acacia tree. As part of consultation with the city forester, 2 15-gallon replacement trees of native species would be required as part of the conditions of approval. The first floor addition is this rough framework here, and the second story kind of pops in a little bit on top of it. And there is a deck that goes off of the second floor addition on the northern part of the building. The first story of the addition has connections to the primary residence on the top left of the photo and the bottom part of the photo, and it goes out to a covered deck that the second story lays above. You can see the outline of the second floor and the staircase that goes up to it in the lower left. On the second story, there would be a bedroom, closet, bathroom, and a walkout area to the upper deck. Be a wraparound deck to the rear of the home, and then a staircase going down to a paved patio in the upper right. From the front elevation, you can see that it is a relatively minimal in terms of aesthetics impact on the structure. The second story comes up here, and there's also a tree line behind this property as well. Even with the removal of that tree, there are very large trees behind as well. From the left elevation, it doesn't include the garage, but you can see the wraparound covered deck on the left and the upper deck on top. You can also see the removal of the fireplace here and the replacement with a window. From the rear, again, you can see the upper deck, the wraparound deck, and the staircase going down to the paved area behind the garage. And then from the right side, you can see the bump out to the right, the deck bump out even further to the right, and the second story addition. There were also renderings provided, including colors. It would match the existing residence. There would be metal railing details and similar gable roofing to match the residence. Spinning around to the other side, there was also a provided 3D rendering. Here you can see the deck that would be removed and replaced with this wraparound deck and second story. Findings required for approval is that the project siting, form, mass, and architectural style must be found to be appropriate. Staff found that it met all development standards and appropriately sited. It was compatible with the single-family neighborhood. There are other 2-story residences in the area as well. Views, privacy, and living environment must be found to not be impaired. And noticing went out, the planning department has not received significant comment. We received a comment from somebody asking where the plans were and haven't heard back. We did not identify a privacy or view impact. The project must be found consistent with city plans and design guidelines. Again, the project was found consistent with these, and the exterior finish, colors, materials, and other exterior features must be found to be appropriate. It was found to be compatible with the new Monterey neighborhood and city, matching the existing building and so on. Conditions of approval, project would need to comply with the required conditions. The standard ones are in there. And then also that previously mentioned tree replacement of 2 15-gallon native trees. A tree is allowed to be removed in the city as part of an architectural development that otherwise complies with all development standards in the city. Therefore, staff's recommendation is that the ARC adopt the resolution for the AR permit and the tree removal permit. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you, Matthew. Any committee questions specifically to his presentation? Okay, is the applicant here? Okay.
Hello, my name's Steve Krebs, the designer for the project. The goals of the project were to add about 1,000 square feet to an existing 50-year-old house. And the way I came up with it to have a minimal impact from the street elevation was to turn the 2-story perpendicular to the existing house. So you're looking at the gable ends rather than the roof, which would have doubled the mass of it. The second floor is only 23% of the main floor, so it's way below the 50% I usually try to go on 2-story buildings. And it's set back far from all the property lines. On the second floor, it's 43 feet from the front, 28 feet from the rear, 20 feet on one side and 28 feet on the other side. So it's quite a ways from the property line. In the second floor tile deck off the primary suite is 23 feet from the property line, which I think it kind of works and leaves a lot of the site unused that could, it's going to be used for outdoor activities. Let's see. And the other goal was to design something within the building envelope of the lot, and it is far below any of the maximum allowed for lot coverage FAR height. It's below the height that's allowed. So I'm really happy with the design. If any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Krebs?
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll open the floor to public comments, either in person or online. I don't see anybody coming up. Spencer, anybody online?
There are no attendees with their hands raised.
Okay, let's open it up for committee comments. Did anybody have a chance to go by? I did not. I tried, but I ran out of time today, so I know that neighborhood pretty well.
The mass of the building is set back from its setbacks pretty well, set back from the front.
Okay,
It's really helpful to have the really detailed plans. We don't see that very often. It helps us make a decision. Yeah, I like the additions that are very subtle from the street. The decks, the increased windows, and the gable roofing just looks really beautiful. So I think I'm ready to approve it.
Just one quick comment. It looks like this will add capacity to the house, residential capacity potentially, and just in terms of all of the different ways that you can create additional residential capacity in the city, this is a really good way to do it.
nice graphic transitions. Matthew, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was cool. All right, then I entertain a motion to approve.
All right, I move that we approve architectural review permit ARP-23-0198 for preliminary final architectural review on the first and second story additions and the associated tree removal permit ART-24-0097 with conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And we have a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 4. Consider 271 Alvarado Street. And it's Matthew again.
I will share my screen. Also this afternoon, we are to discuss 271 Alvarado Street for a sign permit application for an awning and A-frame signage. Staff's recommendation is currently to continue this sign permit application, and we'll walk through it. So the site is located along the Alvarado Mall, and the primary reason that it is before the ARC is because this property is zoned VAF, which is our visitor accommodation facility, and any new signage on those properties go through ARC. It is on the right side of the plaza, and as mentioned, exterior changes require ARC review on VAF zoned properties, and there's a master sign program that was adopted for this property in 2015. The master sign program also covers the entire Portola Hotel complex. The use is an art gallery, Reflections Elegante Fine Art Gallery. The existing space is here through these doors down here. And the proposed awning would go across the width of the tenant space, and the size of the awning would be limited to along the lower valence. The A-frame sign, here is a photo of that sign, which would be placed out in front. Findings required for approval from the ARC is that the proposal needs to achieve the purposes and objectives of the sign ordinance. It does identify the business. It does not include extraneous signs. ARC must also find the signs consistent with the guidelines, or ARC can determine that the proposal better achieves the purpose and objectives than strict application of those guidelines. And we're going to be discussing those a little bit more on the next few slides, as there are a couple snags there. And finally, the proposal is consistent, must be found consistent with the general plan, and it supports commercial use. So there are two that were identified in the staff report. One is that our sign guidelines have a statement that says, when suspended over a public right-of-way, the bottom of the awning should maintain a minimum clearance of 8 feet above the walkway. So as installed or as proposed, the awning sign would have its hardware at 8 feet above the pedestrian walkway, and the valence would go down to 7 feet. This is allowed from the California Building Code after checking with the building department. As long as the hardware is at least 8 feet, anything that hangs down from an awning can go down to 7 feet. That variance would require ARC approval. And the second one is staff identified it as potentially inconsistent. An awning sign is generally appropriate only if there are not good alternatives for wall signs, projecting signs, or hanging signs. The image on the right is from the existing master sign program for a business from 2015, where it allowed, it anticipated a thin sign, a wall sign, and a 7-foot statue that would take up the allowed tenant square footage for the signage that was allowed for them. There are some interesting aspects about this. For instance, a 4-inch high wall sign was a choice. And of course, the statue is not necessarily proposed by every business. Staff had a conversation with the applicant on Monday, talking about the fact that there are awnings throughout Alvarado Mall. And in fact, this is the only business along Alvarado Mall on the right side that does not have an awning and currently only has that wall there. And there are multiple awnings that fall beneath 8 feet. They've been installed over time. Some of them go down to 7.5 feet. These were going out with a tape measure, measuring them in rough estimates, a little below, a little above, but they do fall beneath 8 feet on multiple of them. So providing additional context for the area, the awnings all pictured here are 8 feet. However, in the back, there is one that goes beneath. I'll show a picture of that in a few slides. The tenant space here, this is 8 feet here, this is 8 feet here. Here's the A-frame sign as it would be standing similar to the outdoor stuff at its adjacent neighbor. The Crepes of Brittany awning goes down at least to 7.5 feet. We try to go to where it's a downhill slope there, and we tried to go to the highest point, essentially meaning the lowest point of the awning. It was about 7.5, maybe a little below. And I also wanted to provide this image of all of the awnings along here, where when you're walking down the street, since it all descends and they're all at varying heights of 9 feet, 8 feet, 7.5 feet, it already has a bit of an up and down feature. So putting in this sign here or an awning here wouldn't necessarily be out of place. The top of the pedestrian inlet for this business, this is 8 feet right here. And so it would hang down about a foot as proposed to 7 feet. So the options for ARC, there's 3. You may approve the project with findings that it is appropriate for the site and matches similar businesses in the area. You may deny the project with findings, reasons why, or continue the project with advisement, which is staff's current recommendation based on the guidelines that we have before us. So with that, staff's recommendation is to continue the sign permit application. However, it is up to ARC what they decide to do. With that, that concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is in the room.
Thank you, Matthew. Questions directly?
Do you
pertaining
have
to his-
specific advisements recommended if that were to go that route, or do you have proposed advisements if we were to follow the suggestion of the proposal that you made?
There is a draft approval resolution with a currently somewhat generic ARC found the awning to be appropriate for the business. I can pull up that wording.
Ed, what was your question again?
Well, so if we decide to go with the recommended option of continuing the project with advisements, what type of proposed advisements are you recommending?
Oh, what would Matthew recommend?
Yes.
I mean, based on the agenda report, he would recommend that they, instead of an awning, propose a wall sign as anticipated in the sign program.
And in looking through the master sign program, I could not find a reason as to why that was proposed for a wall sign there versus something else. So
Go ahead, Justin.
Because it didn't really come through in the presentation. You don't think we should? It just seemed very.
Push the button.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we understand, because it sounded like you weren't necessarily saying that the sign was a bad thing necessarily. You're just saying that it's not consistent with the. I think it's the same line of your questioning. Like, I'm not clear what's wrong with the proposed design where you're recommending continuance instead of approval.
sure. So staff's recommendation most often, almost always, is to provide recommendations to bring signs into conformance with the sign program or adopted master sign program. And so our advisement is to continue it for redesign so that it comes into conformance with the adopted sign program. However, the applicant would like to propose to change it, and that is up to ARC's discretion.
Yeah, and I can chime in a little bit here. So obviously as staff, we work with the applicants as much as we can before we get to a hearing to bring things into compliance so that we can get to a point of recommending approval of projects before it comes to this body. At times, applicants would have the option to bring it before the committee to receive that direction directly from the committee. So that's kind of what staff's bringing it forward for, is so the committee can make that decision themselves, whether they'd like to see it brought into compliance or if they're comfortable with the sign as proposed.
Compliance being like the 90-degree sign.
Would either
hung
be a
off the
projecting
wall
sign or a wall
4-inch
sign.
high letters.
That's correct.
I have a couple of questions, Matthew. Is the awning existing or is it going to be built from scratch?
It would be installed. It is not there currently.
What's the reason why it can't comply with the 8-foot limit?
That may be better directed to the applicant
okay.
as to the size constraints.
All right. So we can get into comments later. If there are any other specific questions for Matthew on this, and then we'll let the applicant speak. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had a question about the other awnings that are found to be out of compliance after the fact. Are those, is that what I heard? That there's certain ones that were supposed to be 8 feet but have gone down half a foot, and are they expected to fix those? Because it sounds like
They would be considered existing non-conforming. As in, they have been there and there's not a code enforcement issue with the ones that are up there right now.
Has the code changed in years since those were installed?
The citywide sign guidelines were adopted in 2014, and a number of those awnings have been there for some time.
Okay. Well, without going in too much as to which ones and since when, it seems like a lot right now. But
Yeah, the master sign program was adopted in 2015, and all of the ones in there reflect what is out there. There's a projecting sign right next to it, which didn't show up well in here, that is also at 7.5 feet. It is just a little bit of a.
so the only existing issue with the plan as it is how low it hangs. Or how low it would hang should it be installed.
Well, and the type of sign is a discouraged sign.
Discouraged, but not
Prohibited, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the signs that are being proposed are not prohibited in the city. There is the reason that it comes through ARC is for those discretionary signs that may not perfectly fit the box that was adopted in 2014.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so we're going to move on and let the applicant come up and speak. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Gary Thompson. I and my wife have become the new leasees of 271 Alvarado Mall, and it's the home of Reflections Elegante Art Gallery. We began remodeling the space in May 1st of 2024, and we've had close cooperation with our landlord, which is Custom House Hotel, also known as the Portola Hotel and Spa. And their managing director, Janine Chikarat, has been fantastic in working with us. We were able to finish our tenant improvements on July 30th, and we had our first open day this past Monday. So we're pretty excited about what's happening. In late May, we proposed to the City of Monterey's Community Development Department, Planning Division, and Building Safety Division to install a 26-foot long by 2-foot high awning over the front of our tenant space. We chose Acme Awning of Salinas to design and install this awning. They have previously installed many of the awnings along Alvarado Mall. The roof of our tenant space comes down to 1 foot. So we've got the roof sloping down, we've got the vertical area outside the soffit, and we only have 1 foot of space between the roof and the upper portion of the soffit. And this is kind of an unusual condition along the mall. Most of the reason that these 8-foot heights can be realized is because the roof lines are much higher. So they can put in an 8-foot high, a 9-foot high. We're restricted because we talked to the awning installer. We did not want to install something that was non-conformance with the sign guidelines. And we asked him, can you put something in a 1-foot space? He said, I can put the frame, but I can't put the flap because that would be a 2-foot projection. So this is the kind of the predicament we've been in. And we've been working with staff to try to meet the guidelines as much as possible. Matthew has gone out and reviewed the heights of the signs. I've also done the same. I've come up with a couple of different numbers, but basically there's 7 commercial awnings along Alvarado Mall. My calculation was that 4 of them were below 8 feet and 3 of them were above 8 feet. And what I found in the ones that were above 8 feet, the roof lines were higher. So they could install their awnings higher up on the building than we were able to. So that's kind of our framework. One of the comments in the staff report says that we would affect the public walkway, and we're actually restricted from doing that because our tenant to the south of us has a 12-foot wine bar that sticks out into the mall. So nobody can walk anywhere near our awning. Our awning only comes out 1 foot from the building, which is less than any of the other 7-foot projections. Crepes of Brittany has a 4-foot projection out into the walkway. The others are either 2 or 3 feet. So we're going to be even inside of anything that's existing as far as projection from the building. We thank you for considering our proposal and to install a new awning on the Alvarado Mall. And we would like to request that you approve it with conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Why don't you stick around for a second? We might have some questions for you. I noticed you said one thing when you said flap. Does that mean that the lower foot is loose?
Yes.
There's not a frame around the bottom of it? Okay, that would, I think, change some, make it less obtrusive in my opinion. There's not a lot of people that are taller than 7 feet, but there are a few.
Right.
So any other questions?
They're coming into our gallery.
I just want to confirm one thing. So they're getting the rise, the back of the awning, the high point is not rising above your roof line. It's
Right.
basically in line with the roof
The
line.
installer said to put the awning up on the roof would not be appropriate.
Yeah, good.
And then he can't put the frame up there because he couldn't put it into the roof structure.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Thompson? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One
go ahead.
question.
Yeah.
You prefer the awning to the wall sign or the fin?
Yes, we do. And
Okay.
one of the reasons was there's 19 awnings along the Alvarado Mall. Only 7 of them are commercial, but the hotels, both basically owns the commercial space and the hotel space above. And they've used awnings to kind of define the front of their building. And so we felt like it was more consistent than just put up a wall sign.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Public comment in the room or online?
There are no attendees with their hands raised.
Okay. Committee comments. I prefer, obviously, it's not obvious, but in my opinion, an awning to a wall sign in this situation.
Yeah. For me, I think an awning is better because if you're talking about a rise of only 1 foot across 26 feet, the sign capacity or whatever across there, I don't think it's sufficient.
Yep.
And if the constraints of the rise and support for the awning is it going to drop down to 7 feet? I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, I would always look at the context. And if the context is every business has an awning, it would almost look strange not to have an awning. So I think it's consistent with the context of what's going on down there. So I would urge us to approve the awning.
As committee member Palmer mentioned, many of the others are not in compliance with the current code. So it would be, well, I don't want to characterize anything too personally, but it feels like an important context to keep in mind.
There have been certain signs that we've considered on like North Fremont, for example, though, that we've had the discussion of, are we we have these sign guidelines and do we continue that? And be consistent, starting with the signs. And so we've not approved certain ones for that reason.
I'd like to ask Matthew if you could bring up a slide of just a straight on looking into the building, just so we can see what the roof line is. Okay, so, all right. Oh, I see. Yeah, the roof is right there. I got you. And so the flap is going to come down about a foot below the top of the entrance. And then Puma Road. Can you go back to the Puma Road slide? It was because I think you could kind of see across. Keep going like that one right there. So we can see Puma Road's awning goes way up the wall, but you can just barely see that the art gallery only has about a 18-inch or 2 feet of wall space or something.
And yeah, if I can chime in, I think you're honing in on one of the concerns that staff picked up on in the review of this application, and that is simply if you observe the other awnings, and there are admittedly many awnings in this in the mall, they all have a much higher roof line that creates a very different aesthetic for an awning, that they're able to go much higher up the roof. Matthew, can you show the image that from the actual design guidelines that you had earlier that showed the encourage signs, the wall sign and the pin sign? So I think this image does a good job. You can see the adjacent awning on the other tenant space.
Yeah.
It just goes much higher up on the building, kind of creates a different pitch altogether. I think staff had a hard time visualizing exactly how this awning would look, given that it has to be mounted in that very small area you're seeing right here, and then also create a slope of the awning, and then also have a flap for the actual sign itself. So I think that's just kind of as committee member Tregenza was kind of honing in on, it does have, this space just does have a different profile than the other spaces.
And I noticed that with the Crepes of Brittany
Absolutely.
awning, for example, and that was really jarring for me.
Right. So I think as staff was reviewing this, we were trying to visualize what this awning is going to look. It'll be an almost completely horizontal awning, which you have those exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just that was where staff just really wanted to bring it to the committee to make that decision.
Is there any color considerations guidelines? We didn't see any.
Yeah, because I think that's where I'm seeing it being a little more conspicuous, is that purple color. And I don't know how much
Is it purple? Okay.
Is that
All right,
the
can we see a rendering again?
So I
It
don't.
looks blue to me. I don't know.
It's purple.
Is it purple? Okay.
So that makes it a little more conspicuous to me. And I was like, one of the questions I wanted to ask, is that part of the branding of this business? But I didn't know how much into color considerations this board typically.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we do. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I couldn't tell from that slide. Oh, there it is. Okay. If I get my head up, it looks purple. Yeah. All right.
Not sure it's any more or less conspicuous than the bright blue on the Crepes of Brittany.
I was about to say the same thing.
Well, to me, that's one that I would reconsider if it were proposed.
Be nice if they were all the same color on the mall.
They mostly have this like charcoal blue look to it.
I'd like to ask the applicant a question.
And I'll also comment one other thing, the bagel place that was approved through ARC on the opposite side of the mall.
Yeah.
I don't have a photo of it in this presentation, but it is bright orange
What?
as well.
Was I not here that night?
Bagel place.
I don't remember that.
I don't
All right.
remember a
Yeah,
bagel place.
Carmel Bakery.
Oh, the Carmel Bakery? The pretzel.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that's just sort of a graphic.
Okay, so
way.
go back to that one slide back. I said we can approve, we can deny, or we can continue.
Yeah.
And as Matthew mentioned earlier, if you get to a point where you'd like to approve the project as proposed, we have some draft materials that we can certainly help aid in that findings and standard conditions of approval. So you're not starting from scratch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would like to, just to save the, the owner hassle, approve if possible. I think it seems like we're all pretty much in compliance and pretty close to approving it. It just, so what would that entail? You're going to go through like the approval process with us, or?
It would be taking a look at the 3 findings as drafted in the resolution.
Is the committee amenable to doing that?
We can't just approve as submitted.
You can. So essentially, the draft resolution included in the packet was for it's recommending continuance.
Oh.
So essentially, findings have to be made. So you can definitely approve the project as proposed. We just need to kind of present into the record the findings that the committee's making, and then any conditions of approval that you would like to attach to the project. And that's what we could help out with, is by rather than you drafting and crafting findings on the fly here, we already have some prepared that we can.
Well, unless any member of the committee has reservations. Well,
I'm just curious, Matthew, why did you want to continue this?
I can probably answer. I mean,
Okay.
as staff, we take a more cautious approach to projects when they're not in conformance with guidelines and standards, admitting that this is a unique site with unique challenges. The cautious approach for staff is to always try to get projects into compliance or conformance unless it's just absolutely not an option. So we bring it before for the committee to, if they want to expand upon that and be more flexible, that's in the discretion of the committee.
Thank you.
Of course.
Well, I think if our choice is the wall sign and the fin sign versus a slightly lower awning, I personally would go with the awning. And so I think if we have a mechanism to finish it up today,
We certainly do.
fine with that.
I
Sure.
think we should see if we have a majority. I would also approve the awning.
Just have to be unanimous.
What's that?
Yeah, okay. I'm kind of siding with the city here, but I know it might be in the.
Continue. Get-
Well,
Well, then we got to get everyone speaking.
we have
If
to.
everyone says yes, then we'll have them.
Do we have to have a motion before you go through the guidelines of?
We don't. If someone's prepared to make a motion, we can then go through and help with
Okay.
that. So I think it may be easiest for us just kind of go through that exercise
We got it.
and then let someone make a motion. And if there's consensus, then it'll get seconded and taken on. And then, so yeah, we'll just walk through the findings quickly. And
Quick confirmation, I was tardy, was I within the window to participate, or do I need to abstain from this?
probably safest for you to not participate. Yeah. Thank you.
Just for the record, committee member Paya Mostovar entered the chamber at 4:18.
So we have, I think Ed, were you in approval? Or you're,
Well, I was gonna make a move that we do approve it with the findings.
Okay.
Sure.
so we've got 4, so if we can go ahead.
Absolutely. So Matthew's sharing now some draft findings. So we'll present this and show this for review. These are findings in support of the project as proposed. So we'll give the committee a moment. And if Ed would like to further his motion, including these findings, and then we can also take a look at some conditions of approval that Ed can also attach to his motion.
Findings 1 and 3, staff did not have a problem with. It was number 2 because of the guidelines, and the important parts are, while awnings are not encouraged, many nearby tenants also have awnings, and despite 2 inconsistencies, the awning would visually match nearby tenants. Therefore, the signage is found appropriate for the site, or something along these lines. This is, of course, for ARC to deliberate.
I'll take a stab at it here. I recommend, or I move that we approve the sign permit SI-24-0095 for 271 Alvarado Street for awning and A-frame signage with the following findings associated in the resolution that the proposal achieves the purpose and objectives of the sign ordinance and the verbiage there. Two, that the sign is not consistent with the sign guidelines, but that they meet the proposed 7 feet clearance, adhering to state building code, and that it complements the building's existing public architecture entrance and is visually matching or consistent with nearby adjacent tenants who have similar awnings.
Well done.
Excellent. And just, would you like to include some standard of conditions of approval that we can also share? Great. We'll throw those up there. So Committee Member Hunter has asked to include these conditions of approval as a part of his motion. So now we can take on a second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
That is appealable to the Planning Commission
Commission.
within 10 days with forms available online and in the planning office.
Oops, Christie. All right, we're moving on to item number 5, consider 1200 Moonris Avenue. And it looks like we've got Christie Sabdo on deck.
Hi, my name is Christy Sabdo, Senior Associate Planner with the City of Monterey. I'm going to be presenting 1200 Moonris. Let me get this up on the screen here. Okay. So the project is 1200 Moonris Avenue. It's a permit amendment application for non-structural exterior alterations. The recommendation of staff is to adopt a resolution to deny the permit amendment for preliminary and final architectural review of non-structural alterations at Monterey Surf Inn at 1200 Moonris. So the site is commercial on the general with has a general plan designation of commercial. The zoning is Visitor Accommodation Facility, VAF, and it's in the Monterey Vista neighborhood. Is located along Moonris Avenue and across from the mall. So the Monterey City Code states that architectural review is required for ordinary non-structural repairs, alterations, exterior remodeling, changes in landscaping or planting areas or maintenance. So as background, on May 17th of 2022, the applicant retroactively applied for an architectural review permit for exterior alterations to the property. Exterior alterations were made before the application. On January and March of 2023, planning and building staff visited the site together and determined that additional work was performed without permits while the architectural review application was in review by staff. So a stop work order was issued. The applicant then expedited resubmittals to the city to achieve completeness of the architectural review permit. So as background, this is what the property looked like prior to the unpermitted work. And this is a previous Google image. I'm not sure what year it is, showing what the fencing enclosure looked like prior to the unpermitted work on the site, because this fence was removed. This is showing pictures of the work that was done without a permit during the architectural review. And on June 21st, 2023, the Architectural Review Committee did approve the non-structural exterior alterations, including exterior finishes to the building, fencing, landscaping, and lighting. And then a building permit was issued for the approved architectural review plans on July 20th of 2023. The stop work order was lifted and construction resumed. Here's the approved plan. I wanted to show the area where the fence, so there's a fence elevation shown here, and that fence elevation that would go around this entire pool, the existing pool area. The pool during this review of the architectural review permit was going to remain. So that was the intent of the applicant, to keep the pool at that time. And so the materials were a stone veneer and then a wood plastic composite in between. And then here is the area that is fenced off kind of at the entrance to the property. You'll see the trash enclosure, in this little square here. The typical fence elevation shown as 5 feet, and it was a wood plastic composite material. Here's the approved landscape plan. And the Architecture Review Committee did approve a special condition that staff would approve a landscape plan subsequent to the ARC approval. This is what staff approved: landscaping along Moonrest Avenue outside of the fenced area for the pool on the opposite side, and then also here another kind of towards the entrance to the property. So during construction, the Monterey County Health Department drove by the site kind of unannounced and just noticed that the fence was not being constructed to meet safety standards for a pool. So typically pool fence would be vertical, and this fence did have horizontal slats. But subsequently, in working with the health department, the property owner could have removed some of the spacing between the horizontal slats, so it wasn't climbable. So given that, instead of fixing the fence, the property owner decided they'd like to fill in the pool with this permit amendment application. The Building and Safety Division and Planning did visit the site during construction and found that work completed was not consistent with the plans approved by the Architecture Review Committee. So we asked the property owner to stop work. Planning staff communicated with the property owner that the improvement should be constructed per the approved plans. Instead, the property owner preferred to submit a permit amendment for to ask for approval of what's been constructed on the property, kind of the as-built improvements. And so I'm going to go through the project description of what the applicant is requesting through this permit amendment. They're now requesting to fill in the pool and then replace that surface after they fill it in with a gray tile, as you see in this picture, and artificial turf. So the tile by this interior seating area, which is also a change to the plans, it's inside the kind of the pool area, if you will. And that tile would, it's like a gray tile. There would be partial tile and then artificial turf inside that area. So regarding the fence around the existing pool, the applicant's requesting a change from a stone veneered concrete base and columns to unfinished concrete base and columns. And I have some pictures coming up. A change in fence height around the existing pool from approved maximum height of 5 feet to heights varying from 5 feet to 5 feet 11 inches as constructed. Addition of an additional metal support where the wood plastic composite fencing is, as it is warping. They would like to put in black metal bars, supports to help with that. So as you can see right here, wanted to show, this is the as-built condition. The fence heights are 5 feet 8 inches where it's showing here on either side of the sign. And then staff did conduct a site visit with property owner representatives, and we measured kind of around the whole area. And the heights do vary in locations from 5 feet to 5 feet, 11 inches. And here is the warping showing here of the wood plastic composite. And the fencing around the pool was approved with this stone veneer on the columns and the base. The proposed amendment is just to have the like a stucco without the stone veneer. And then these black metal supports along, like in between, kind of in the middle of all of these wood plastic composite slats. So the fencing near the trash enclosure was approved at a maximum height of fence 5 feet. It was constructed at a height of 7 feet. They state for security purposes. So you see here the fence height was constructed at 7 feet. And we asked them to remove the slats. Well, we asked them to reduce it to 5 feet. They did remove just the slats. It kept the post at 7 feet as they were going through this permit amendment process. They do state that people do bring like sleeping bags and pillows and sleep behind here. When staff visited the site, we didn't see that, but we did see construction material being stored here. Landscape revisions, the applicant is requesting removal of all of the landscape shown on the approved landscape plan except for the area in front of the sign. You can see that there's landscaping there. And then an addition of landscaping, kind of like a landscaping planter in front of the sign. That's a change as well. But they would like to remove the landscaping in front of Moonrus and on the opposite side. So I'm going to go through the architectural review findings with staff's recommendation of denial. Finding 1 is the proposed siding for mass and architectural style are appropriate for the site, immediate area, and the city. That's the finding. Staff's response is that the siding form and massing of the VAF building itself is not changing. Elements of the proposed changes to the approved plans directly conflict with the Architectural Review Committee's approval, and as such would be considered inappropriate for the site. With removal of the pool, there is not a need for full fencing around this area. The property owner intends to add outdoor seating to this area. Partial fencing along Moonrus Avenue could define this space and enhance the property. However, as proposed, the fence creates unnecessary visual clutter rather than serving as a practical purpose. As an example, you'll see this is kind of an old postcard we found in the file showing how landscaping can enhance the property as viewed from Moonrus Avenue. Finding 2 is that the proposed project would not unreasonably impair the views, privacy, or living environment currently enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity. Staff's response is story poles are not needed as there are no structural exterior alterations. There are no views that would be impaired by the proposed fencing. The proposed replacement pool fencing was approved to be 5 feet in height as required by the building code. However, the as-built height of the fence around the pool varies from 5 feet to 5 feet 11 inches. This fence would not impact views as this fencing is located at the front of the property, largely along Moonrus Avenue. The corner fence at the north end of the property is located at the entrance to the inn and currently screens an unpermitted storage area. The fence is currently 5 feet in height with 7-foot posts. The applicant is requesting this fence be increased to 7 feet in height. While a 7-foot fence would not impair views, privacy, or living environment for the residential property behind the subject property, staff is not recommending an increase in fence height to 7 feet at this corner fence. As built, the fence does not enhance the living environment currently enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity. The finding 3 is that the proposed project is it consistent with the general plan and any area plans or other documents. Staff's response is that the proposed use is consistent with the general plan and that the property has a commercial land use designation and the proposed alterations are commercial in character. However, the urban design element of the general plan identifies this portion of Moonrust Avenue as a proposed scenic road. And I do have a map of that if you'd like to see it. And provides a series of policies that guide development at the site. Policy G4 states use landscaping to screen parking lots and structures. The general plan also states that elements which detract from the natural setting should be eliminated or screened, while goal H intends to protect and enhance scenic entrances shown on figure 2, which follow a parkway concept. As proposed, the plan would remove the swimming pool, but would retain an unnecessary built feature that would not enhance the scenic quality of the corridor. Additionally, the fenced area at the northern entrance is being used to screen unpermitted storage and is directly adjacent to the roadway. The project, as proposed, is inconsistent with the goals and policies of the general plan. 4 is regarding the finished materials, colors, landscaping, lighting, and fencing, and whether they are appropriate for the site. Staff's response is that the elements of the proposed changes to the approved plans directly conflict with the Architectural Review Committee's approval, and as such would be considered inappropriate for the site. While the proposed finished colors, materials, landscaping, and lighting, and fencing, and all other exterior features will be commercial in character, they are inconsistent with the prior direction from ARC. While the applicant has constructed landscaping in front of the sign along Moonrust Avenue, the proposal to remove landscaping in 3 locations approved by ARC would negatively impact the aesthetics of the site. The property is prominent to those arriving and leaving from Highway 1 via Moonrust Avenue. Staff recommends installing the landscaping as approved by ARC. The urban design element of the general plan identifies this portion of Moonrust Avenue as a proposed scenic road and provides a series of policies that guide the development. So as I kind of already stated, as proposed, the plan would remove the swimming pool, but would retain an unnecessary built feature that would not enhance scenic quality of the corridor. The proposed finished colors, materials, landscaping, lighting, fencing, and other exterior features are inappropriate for the project site and immediate area. Staff recommends that ARC adopt a resolution denying permit amendment 240115 for preliminary and final architectural review of non-structural exterior alterations at Monterey Surf Inn at 1200 Moonrust Avenue. Staff is available for questions and the applicant is here and they do have a presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Stabdo from committee?
Do you have any recommendations to help them get across that line for approval?
So it is an option. ARC can adopt the project with certain conditions. So they have a certain list of recommended changes to the project, and the permit amendments like listed out. You can approve the project with certain elements of what they're proposing, or change anything that they're proposing. We've drafted also similar to the other project findings for approval and standard conditions of approval if you'd like to approve portions of the project or all of what they're proposing.
To answer your question, I think you were asking, we've been working at length with the applicant to get them into essentially conformance with the existing approval they have that is a little over a year old. So that's been staff's goal in the processing of this application, and we've been unable to do that. So as Christy just stated, I think the committee has a lot of options in front of them. A simple denial of the permit amendment would result in just the existing approval being in effect. However, that doesn't really address the applicant's desire to fill in the pool, which would still require approval of this committee given that it's a VAF zone property. So any site change requires approval of the ARC. So it's kind of an interesting situation where staff's not really inclined to force a property owner to maintain a pool. But at the same time, site changes of that nature would have kind of a ripple effect of site changes that this committee would be deciding on. So I think what would be helpful is we can hear from the applicant, their presentation, but ultimately I think where we need to get to is kind of a deliberation amongst the committee of what the committee would be comfortable with doing, and then we may be able to provide some more specific options as to how we get you there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christy, you mentioned a list of proposed in your response to Payam, a list of proposed that the applicant would like us to accept as part of the, where does that list
Oh, sure.
exist?
In the staff report, under project description, there's a list of what the permit amendment, proposed project amendment entails.
Okay.
Can you bring it up, Christie?
Sure.
While she's doing that, it's a little bit of a larger question, but it's pertinent to this. I think it's come up before where building permit or something that is more technical tends to be done after our review. But when that changes the aesthetic, that becomes an issue and then might have to be brought back to us. Just something like making sure it's in compliance with various codes and things, I would think is usually before coming to us, but it sounds like maybe that's not the case.
Yeah,
here.
so there's a discrepancy in what's required in the building code and what's required by the health department for what is a pool that's accessible to the public or patrons to the hotel. So there is kind of a disconnect there. So what was approved was actually compliant with the building code, however, not necessarily compliant with the health department. As Christy said, a remedy was recommended by the health department that utilizes all the exact materials that are there and essentially the same condition, but that was not chosen.
Thank you.
Of course.
So in the agenda report, under project description, you'll see a list of all the changes that they're requesting.
Can you make that a little larger, Christy?
Project description. Okay.
So it's on a couple
it.
pages here. Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Right, let's get the applicant.
Okay, let me.
Any other questions? Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation? Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And my name is Digen Patel. I'm the owner of the property 1200 Munwas Avenue. And I acquired this property in 2007. I try to improve the property day by day and keeping all the whatever the requirement by the city. Just to let you know, the one really old picture that you guys looking at with the slides on the pool, I'm pretty sure is 100% before my takeover the property. At that time, it's not. Maybe that picture is look like to me it's in maybe 1990s or something like that, but it's nothing related to me. My question is, I have a situation comes, this project is going on from the last almost 2 years. On the middle of the time, I stopped the project because of the money. Then after I get the approval, I totally understand that I start the project without the permit because it's according to me, it's like a cosmetic things that I'm doing the fence, removing the fence and putting the new fence because it's all losing up. So that's why I started. But then after they stop the work, I go with the permit and you guys approve the permit. That I really appreciate that. Then after day by day it's going on. Every time we did our best, everything according to the ARC permit. And then from the planning department, actually building department, they come and inspect it. They came like almost four times or 5 times during the construction. And they looking at what's going on. Yes, it's my mistake that my fence went above from 5 feet to not 5'11". None of the pillar is more than a 5'3" or 4", which is 4 inch above. Only 2 pillar by the side, it's 5'8". So there is no 5'11". The maximum height on a side is 5'8", which is only 2 pillar on a side by the side, which is holding the whole sign and looking at the frontage is really nice. And then after the county involved, somehow they stopped by and they said, it's not appropriate. It is not. So my 80% of the work is done. The fence is not approved because they say that someone can climb. It's not supposed to be horizontal. It has to be straight up and down. I said my original plan was approved. It's a horizontal. There's still, it says there's a gap. Exactly, we did the same thing. There is no change on it according to the plan. But once the county involved, I said, how come I know that I have to take the permit from the county too? When you guys approve it, there is no mention that you need to go to the county also to get the pool permit separately. I have no idea. But anyway, I said, okay, maybe I consider it's my fault. So I said, okay, if I remove the pool, because it's a safety issue, and I totally consider that, yes, safety come first, that someone climb on it, drown in a pool. I said, okay, if it is that issue, I can remove the pool. And that's end up I'm doing it. So I don't have to spend another maybe 20,000, 40, 25,000 to tear down the pool, the fence and everything. And there's no reason actually I can spend that kind of money. And I really request that if you can, I have some couple of pictures, Christy, I sent this afternoon that actually, you want photos up? Okay. Here's my son actually, and he's going to take off from now because he was looking at the property from now on. He's working with me since I'm training him from the 2 years. So eventually.
Thank you.
So, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just let Christy know when to advance the slide and she can.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vidant. I don't know if you guys remember me from last time. So I want to start off. I've been under, obviously, my dad this whole time. I've been in the hotel industry, like I stated at our last ARC meeting. So many properties on the street. I don't know if this is a concern. I'm willing to know that. I'm curious about that after too. If you guys have an issue with the pool being removed, first of all, if that is, there are multiple properties on this Monterey Avenue that have removed their pool. And I'm sure that's also beneficial in waterways, multiple other ways. A pool is something that just people don't really look forward to. Monterey is not hot all throughout the year. We have barely 2 months of the summer. Global warming's coming, it gets warmer, whatnot, whatever. My clientele from my hotel, it's so dense, that market, that you need to attract a different clientele if you want to survive on that street. So we see irregular market tourism is going down. We don't see a lot of European people, just from all around the world. We see more local people from Silicon Valley, more tech workers, people who just want to get away for the weekend. And so my property, I don't know, are the new pictures? Yeah, that'd be great. So that's a before.
Sorry.
I've taken a total modern retake on the property. I don't know if you guys have ever been to this property. There's multiple across the street. My aunts, uncles, relatives, I know who own all of them. They're chic. They represent Monterey in a very natural and great way. This is old. This is something that's, attracts a certain type of clientele. But if you want the tech world, this is just succulents, stuff that takes less water. And like my father said, the fencing, to remove a whole side of a fence, all that costs a lot more than, getting the pool back. And like he said, it was approved horizontally. And then Health County came in after and told us that it had to be vertical, which is totally understandable. Regardless, we are hoping that you can approve so my future plans for this inside also is not a unfinished concrete. It is actually a Santa Barbara smooth. It is a specific color. It looks great. It looks like concrete. At night, this place looks really cool due to the mellow lighting. The future for the inside of the pool is to create a putting ground have cornhole on the sides. So now there would be no safety issues. The warping of the boards is going to be fixed. We're going to gloss them. We're going to stain them down too. We're going to put another beam in the middle, which is hopefully approved. That end wall right there is actually going to have a mural, as well as the front two sides. Murals are very popular. There's going to be a lot more planters going around. We just haven't been able to do work and really show what's been happening. We have seen almost, I think, I have the data. I'm sorry, it's not in the presentation. About a 45% increase in comments on just of how the property looks. If you guys even just scroll past, people love it. Like people walk past and say, "This is super cool, modern. We love to see it." I guarantee you, if you stand there for 1 hour, when people walk by just across Monterey, they will go like this and be like, "Oh, what's happening? What's happening? This looks really cool." And we're so glad to hear that. Putting ground cornhole, we're gonna do a barbecue, etc. We have future plans. We're hoping car shows coming up. We've been going through this for 2 years. We really don't want to keep stretching. We understand there's rules and regulations, but I have a future for the property. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Stick around for a second.
Okay, of course.
It looks like your dad wants to talk
Yeah.
again. Go ahead.
Wants to add, go for it.
Yeah, we want to ask you maybe some questions, so.
Sure. And also, if you're looking at the old pictures that the landscaping on a both side, the old pictures that we have it's literally on a Munra side. There is no landscaping before also. It's the grass was and the plants was sticking out from the fence coming out. Under it's a hole. That's why the fence is tearing up. So there's literally not before also. So, and regarding the requesting the 7 feet height, which is rejected one time on a first ARC meeting by the trash, the homeless was coming. They sleep inside it. I have some pictures already presented that they jump easily from there. They jump easily. There is there's a construction right now material because we stopped the work. We never stored the construction over there. So they can inspect it after the construction work is done, because we are not planning to put anything inside the fence that stores something or catch fires or anything like that. We just want to secure our property from the homeless and get in and have a bad reputation. So yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, stick around for a second. Any committee questions for the applicant? Okay, is there any?
I do.
Go
ahead. So currently, there's no plan to continue adding stone veneer onto this. That's a change that you're requesting.
So basically, I have only 3 requests to change this previous plans and this plan. Only 3 changes. I have not a list, which is because of the money that we can't spend too much money on it, that we are limited to money now. There is a stone veneer before, so we remove the stone veneer and we just put the plain nice stucco. It looks fantastic. So, and the second change is that we requesting from the city that the 5 feet height wall, the pillars actually, not the wall, the pillars, which is only like out of 14 pillars, like a 4 or 5 pillars, which is only 5 inches above, or that's it. And the 2 on a side, which is 8 inches more. So I request that one to leave it as it is. And the fencing also, that we're going to secure it with the putting a middle part, because now there is no safety, and removing the poles. And the 7 feet height wall requesting by the trust. That's only things we're requesting from the city.
I think I heard something from your son though about changing the color of the fence too.
No, we're just gonna stain them so they don't like get brittle or anything further. We're just gonna stain them. Like it's a clear stain.
Clear stain, yeah.
To protect it in a way.
Stain the plastic.
It's like a
Okay.
clear silicone.
Oh, clear, like for the tile that we polish. Yeah, it's a clear. So nothing was changing it.
But to be
And
clear,
removing planting also, I think you're requesting.
No, we are not removing any plant.
But you're removing the approved planting in some places.
Oh, yeah,
The
two.
original- Okay, right.
Yeah, the 2 places, one on a Munra side, which is we try to do it that, it's look good or something, but once the fence comes, there's no space or anything that we can put outside and against the wall, which is on the city line. So, but then before there's a original one, there's never been. So, we decide not to goes on a Moonrise side landscaping.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, just to
Mhm.
go back to the stone veneer and budgeting. So you had originally proposed that stone veneer as part of the application. You thought you could make it work, and then what was the decision by?
Money wise,
Okay,
it's going to be cost almost like a really, really high budget.
but initially you had thought that you could provide these walls for the project.
I'm sorry.
Before we thought that we could.
Yeah, before we thought, but it's, there's business was down. Everything we need to look around, like, after the pandemic, and then after we going slowly, that we try to, but, so easy way to go. It's rather than a veneer stone, it's just like a plain stucco. So, and it's looks so fantastic. It's also matched with our whole entire property. So it's not even a like nothing going on and off.
It's honestly that smooth. It's a Santa Barbara coat. It matches California's aesthetic. And it's just a different gray color.
Can I request to show him a new pictures, please?
The ones that you provided?
Yes, ma'am,
Sure.
please.
Is there a
So,
particular?
yeah, other side, maybe, yeah, if you can scroll down, please.
Sure.
Okay, so,
That's a
no, that's
before.
all before, after. Okay, so this is the new look, which is same look, the pillars around the, oh yes, if you can zoom, the gray color that you can see, it's a plain stucco. Same material that we use it on a fence. So it's literally matching. And if you try to do the stone veneer, then it's going to be literally off match. And also a lot of money we can, wasting.
And how long did it take for the panels to warp? And are you confident that those metal bars are gonna remedy that problem?
Could we go back actually? So the boards were like they said, they warped over time of, I'd say 6-7 months, but they were sitting along for a long time. We ordered them before, and then it took a long time for them to be installed. So they warp because they have to be laid flat. And then when they're not laid flat, we had no proper place to put them. So that's one reason. And then there's not a picture. So there's a segment right to this top corner that is a smaller segment, a much smaller. And so when you put another beam in, a metal support beam, that creates a smaller gap that doesn't let the boards warp at all. And they are much sturdier. It's only like, I think, a 3 to 4 foot gap, while these are, I think, 8 to 7 feet wide, which causes the warping.
Just making sure you had a professional installer do this, not yourself or something, just, yeah, okay.
It looks also, well, we're not in comments, so I can't comment, so we'll just keep moving. Any other questions for the applicant?
Is there a reason why you wouldn't want more planting?
So we are going to include more planting. So previously, if you guys do look, and then if you guys use that, I'm sure the city used that as reference, that there used to be previous planting. If you look on the inner side of the property, there used to be previous planting. It was only about 6 to 8 inches wide previously. And it used to be a curb about this high going on to the inner side of the property. There was never, like my father said, on the Monterey side, which was undergrowing. I'm going to be still putting lots more planters. They're really small and hard to see right now with the dirty tile. There's going to be a bunch more planters inside as well, but they're not going to be in a constructed planter, I would say. And like I said, on the outside, if we were to do that again, that would be cost. Secondly, there's just not enough room for any car. They would hit it every time because the curb, and it's just for them to reverse, there's not enough space.
I do have one more question. Is the pool going to be demolished or is it just
Filled in.
It's filled in.
Filled in.
So it's still, all the plumbing is still intact. It could go back to being a pool. It hasn't.
Hammered out the bottom.
What's that?
They've hammered out the bottom.
You've had, okay. So you've
destroyed.
You've destroyed the pool. Okay. The pool is unsavable.
Yeah, we're not gonna be using the pool. No.
It's going to be filled up totally.
But you're
So
not,
what's the
but you're
question, sorry?
not going to, he was asking about the pool, but you're not going to remove the coping.
No, so I guess the city needs us to put in holes before so it's for drainage properly.
Right.
So we're gonna do that and then that's gonna be filled in right after.
Okay.
But the coping will be removed or no?
Everything is going to be removed and we're going to put the tile on it.
It's
So
going to
it'll
be
be-
Oh, the
tile.
coping.
and-
Yeah,
and
yeah,
putting-
So
and
yeah,
a putting green.
for it to be level, then yes, the tile, for the tile to be level, the coping will be removed, correct?
All right. Any other questions?
I just making sure it is bare concrete, not stucco. Is that correct?
No, it is stucco, not bare concrete.
It is stucco. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to open it up for public comment. If there's anybody else in the room or online.
There are no attendees with their hands raised.
Great, thank you. So let's open it up for committee comments. Oh, and also, so it's just a staff recommendation to deny.
Correct.
Okay, got it. I just want to make a comment to the applicant. I can understand your frustration to get an approval and then to find out from a different government agency that because of safety regulations, it's hard sometimes when government agencies don't communicate with each other. And I know that that could be really, really frustrating. So I apologize for that.
Is that not part of a checklist? You think that?
Again, a remedy was provided that would allow for the fence to be in full compliance.
Totally understand.
Yeah.
I'm just maybe because I think it came up previously.
That would be a question for our building division. I'm not sure if the health department reviews building permits or if they're involved in that review, but it is a very, very known thing that if you have a public pool, that it is the county health department that makes all the regulatory calls in relation to that pool. So that's not an unknown.
So is there not like a mechanism in place when you're changing the fencing around a pool? on a
I'm sure that
city-
requires a permit from the county health department.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
A question for staff. So if this were denied today, what would the recourse be for the applicant if they wanted to move forward with filling in? And then would they have to reapply to maintain the current fencing? And I suppose increase the height of the trash enclosure.
So there's a few options in which this could be addressed. So a clear and out denial of the permit amendment would result in the previous approval staying in effect. And the site would be expected to be brought into compliance with what was previously approved. Obviously, the previous approval envisioned a pool there. So to answer your question, a outright denial would require them to then submit an application or a permit amendment to fill in the pool and not including all the other changes that they're currently proposing. An alternative to that, and what I think would be cleaner in this instance, if the committee wanted to get to a point of revision to the current approval, that they could provide that direction to the applicant and that the applicant could provide revised plans to be sure that everything was captured accurately, because there's a lot of moving pieces to this project.
Wait, I'd like to add to that. But if the committee just wants to approve filling in the pool, you could do that by approving the permit amendment, but just approving the filling in the pool part
Yeah.
and nothing else.
We can approve portions
Yeah.
of it as we see fit.
So
Right,
it sounds
and-
like that's pretty critical for them to move forward with some of this and not lose time and additional money. But
And your second part of the question was, can they reapply? They cannot apply for the same permit within 1 year of the decision. So,
Okay.
so they would have to wait an entire year to propose the same thing in front of you.
Got it. Okay, that's good information to have.
I just, well, not really questions, I guess, we're in comments now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate the frustration on kind of all sides in the sense of this has been a long process. It feels like there's starts and stops, but I would say it does from at least my perspective, it's felt like from the client side, it hasn't been thought through completely before being brought to us. And so we have a bit of a lack of trust in what the results are that we might see. That can be both in just the resolution of the plans, the thoroughness of can we afford to do this or that, these different things. Things change, all of that happens. And I also appreciate that it might seem like because of this process, something comes in later and different things. But generally speaking, that is on the applicant's table. That's kind of their responsibility to make sure they're checking all those boxes of permits, et cetera, et cetera. Some people hire lawyers, et cetera, different consultants to help them do that. That might have saved you years in this. It may seem like it's more affordable to kind of do it yourself or something, but sometimes that's why some of these professionals can assist. So I think what generally we're trying to do is we want to help you move forward. We want to protect this street frontage, all of these situations. In my opinion, it's your choice to decide if a pool is in market or not. So I don't really have any problem with that. I would think that you mentioned a lot of different activities and things. Are there going to be umbrellas? Are there going to be kind of heaters? What are the different things? This is a very different change now that you're making to this space. It seems valid. But my concern is that you're going to then come to us or somebody's going to catch you out of compliance doing, as you said, a bunch of planters, about all these different things. Those things need to be permitted. And so that's, I think, my worry is that it isn't thought through yet. It's sort of a quick change. So what I think we're going to attempt to do is try to come up with some things to keep you moving. But I'm concerned that we're going to just be here again in another 5 months. So, which I think would concern you because that's another permit fee. It's all these different things. So that's kind of my background on that. It may work that you put the pole in the middle, things like that. Something, I think you said it, maybe they were stored incorrectly, and so that's why they warped. I don't want to get into that too much. That's kind of technical. From hopefully your installer can help you understand what's wrong with that. But I do want to, as much as possible, avoid continuing this for another 2 years and seeing this project again with changes that we didn't anticipate because you didn't think through kind of to the end. Because we want to trust what we're recommending and then not be hemmed in later by, geez, that's going to be really difficult for them to make all these changes. And then we feel like we're kind of being forced into some decisions as well. I kind of chimed in a lot there, but it's kind of my general feeling. Again, I appreciate it, but it's also for us, we need to really trust and understand kind of what this final result will be. And that any of those changes are generally really minor. There's some planting changes, things like that, but the general structure of those designs are settled, and that we can trust that, the city can trust that, the citizens can trust that what we've approved is really going to be there as approved. One other quick thought came to mind. Just I also appreciate the 7-foot high fence I have near me. There's garbage structures with people living in them every night. And it's at a hotel with visitors and things. I could see how that would be a concern. I don't know that I like the aesthetic of just that tall fence next to the structure, but it's not terribly offensive either. I don't know if we can brainstorm ways that we could help them come into at least that item. Maybe approval of the pool being gone, but then also coming back with more final resolution plans that we can trust are gonna that you've approved financially as well. I mean, all of these things, right? That we can move forward with something that we all can say, we agreed to that, you agree to that, and we don't come back here again in 5 months.
Well put, Pam. Yeah. Can we go back to the slide of the inside that the applicant provided?
Sure.
Of the pool structure? It's like, one of the things that kind of stuck out to me was, we went through this process, we approved this, and then we have, like, it looks to me like every one of those pillars is a different height. And from, this committee is kind of, the aesthetic committee. So it's like, that's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. And it's too late. It's built and it would cost a lot to fix it. But that's like one of those compliance things. It's like, that's why we have this committee, is so that things are done a certain way, so that this is a very important corridor and entrance to our city, and we want to make sure it looks good. I know you guys want the same thing. You want your customers to be happy, but that's why we have these rules and regulations. So is there a consensus on the committee whether pools are a good thing or a bad thing because of water? Or, I mean,
Well, I don't think we need to, my opinion is that we don't need to talk about pools in general. We need to talk about whether we're okay with them filling this particular pool.
right.
Well,
The thing is, if we don't have a pool, then we don't need the fence, but then they don't have this enclosed cornhole court and pitch and putt or whatever. So I get why providing that recreation space that's protected for their clients and their customers is a good thing, but
It could
the
be a
reason it
hedge
was there
instead
was because
or
it was,
something.
yeah, was it, say again?
It could have been a hedge instead.
It could have
or
been a
something,
hedge,
right? Like
it could have been
something
landscaping.
cheaper and actually easy,
Yeah.
so that, again, the benefits of making sure you know the process and beforehand could probably have saved you money and time as well. But that's now we're stuck with that as well. So we could make those recommendations.
The vertical slats would have been not a super costly change to make, and you would have still had the pool. And I mean, the decking looks much better. It looks really nice, but I'm concerned also from a committee standpoint, if we're just going to go into the minutia of this project on a committee basis of every little thing, we approve that, we don't approve this. Is it easier? Is it more? I don't know. It's not easier for the client or for the applicant, obviously, if we just deny and then say, go back to the, Levi, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think it just depends on what the direction of the committee is. If the committee is in favor of, is comfortable with filling in the pool, but no other changes outside of what was previously approved, I think we can pretty easily get to that today. Unfortunately, I think given as Christy showed, the list of things that are actually being proposed to be changed from the original approval, I think we would need to go through kind of the minutia of that to actually get a consensus on whether or not the committee is comfortable with those changes. So, and that would include increasing the allowed height of the fence in both locations and approving of the change of the material of the base and the columns. I will touch on a comment of committee, the chair. You do have the authority to require these things to be corrected and be constructed as approved in the plans,
right?
That you guys approved. Obviously, the pool aspect of that is a little bit different, given that if the pool is not going to be used, I think the committee would find that it's better served to fill the space than leave an empty pool. But
yeah,
I'll leave that back for discussion.
Well, I just, one more comment is I'm, and this is directly directed at the applicant. I think what you've done is it's an improvement on the property for sure. What's upsetting to me personally is that we approved one thing and then you did something else without going through the permitting process. Because now we're stuck with, well, now we can't just, if we did that, if we said, okay, that's fine, then every other business owner on Monterey could do the same thing. And we don't want to start that, go down that road. So just for time's sake, would that just be a motion to fill in the pool? How does that work?
I think we need to address all of it goes back to the list that you mentioned earlier on. There's 6 bullet points that they're requesting. And in my comment, I just want to go through those 6 points really quick. The first point is filling in the existing pool and finishing the new surface with gray tile and artificial turf. I don't have a problem per se with filling in a pool. What I don't like and what some of these hotels on Moonrise have done is just they've filled them in and they've left the outline of the pool, and it just looks really, and I think that's what's going on here is you're sort of reacting to conditions that you perceive have been forced upon you by the health department. So I don't have a problem with filling in the pool. It should be done well, and you should think about the space that's left over. The fence around the second bullet point is the fence around the existing pool was approved and constructed at a height no higher than 5 feet. You know, this is the type of thing that puts us in a very difficult position because you built a 6-foot fence and you're approved for a 5-foot fence and you built it out of stucco pillars. And, you know, I know from doing fences on our projects that it's hard when the site is sloping, that corners of those fences, they tend to crawl up above the height limit, but that's why you got to be out there and you got to plan it. You got to think about it before you actually start building pillars and stacking stones and things like that. Change the fence around the existing pool area from concrete block to stone veneer. I personally don't have a problem with this. When someone's on a budget, they tend to use such cheap veneer that it doesn't look good. I'd personally rather see the wall in stucco than have really cheap stone veneer on there that's, you know, 3/4 of an inch thick and plastered on in a really haphazard manner. The fence at the entrance to the trash enclosure going from 5 feet to 7 feet. I actually don't have a problem with that either. That trash enclosure was an eyesore for years. The homeless people in this area actually are, it's an issue up there, and it doesn't surprise me that they've got people in there. I do think that we do need to follow up and make sure they're not storing other things in there, that they're not using it as mechanical equipment and whatnot. But I personally wouldn't have a problem with 7 feet. This is where I really have a problem getting rid of the landscaping and thinking that we're just going to stick planters out there. What's happened along Moonrise, and I think the fact that there's that old historic picture from what looks like the 70s or 80s, that street looked a heck of a lot better when all of those motels had landscaping in front of them. And now they've become fences and asphalt. And this project was approved with a landscape buffer between the edge of the street and the hotel. And I don't know if that fence was built too close to the property line now to do that buffer. But if that's the case, I think that fence needs to be taken down because you've got to have these landscape buffers between these seas of asphalt and the street. Like you mentioned in the general plan, it's a scenic corridor. And so that's the thing that I'm having the most trouble with. We've got all this hardscape where we've replaced the pool. What's not hardscape is going to get fig lawn. And then we've gotten rid of all the landscaping around the perimeter, except for that very small corner underneath the sign, which looks like it's 75% gravel. I just think we've got to hold the line on that stuff because there's just not enough greenery on that side of the street. So those are my things. I would actually be tempted to decline the project and have them come back with a landscape plan for how they're going to plant it.
That's more where I was headed. Just like, you know, these things, the 7-foot fence, you know, that we can work with that. But as when we discussed this before, context matters, and that's actually part of the context of the whole project. And so essentially we as much as we'd like to give you something to continue to work on, all of these pieces work together. And so we need to see all of them in the context of the final plan that is proposed for this space, if it's landscaped, what is that? Yeah, you could tear that front fence down and put a hedge, and your clients would probably be much happier. It's going to be some greenery. There's a lot of wonderful choices you could make with that space that improve also for both your clientele and the community. But we're not seeing that right now in this plan. And it would be preferable to see that fence enclosure, all of these things with the context of a larger plan to be able to just approve it and be really happy with it. And I think planting is a big part of that. Otherwise, you're basically asking people to hang out in a parking lot with a lot of other hardscape, even if you might add some other things and all of these other pieces. It's not, in my opinion, it's never just for the public and yourself. So some of these things I think need to be thought through. As far, again, same as far as pool, not a big deal. That's your choice. I think that's very much part of your decision to make these choices based on your budget and your clientele. But it is our responsibility to have something that does have an appeal and not feel like it was a change made last minute. And it doesn't coordinate with all the other pieces, because we spent a lot of time actually talking about, is that material match this material? Is that material match this material? What are these different materials? And now it's back in front of us and they've all changed. And so I don't even remember which ones we were coordinating that larger picture with.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with both you guys on this. So it's sounding like have them go back to the drawing board and include all the changes that they want, those 6-point bullet points, and then include some sort of landscaping buffer, whether it's taking that fence down because they've built too close to the property line, hedge alternative, different softer transition between a fence and some landscaping. Is that what I'm hearing from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, people would love trees. I'm
Trees,
sure.
I know. There's
Trees
plenty
would
of room
be-
now to put a tree in that
You've
fence
got
area.
space now. You can also have a civil engineer go and see what your turning radiuses are and all of that, and actually minimize the amount of asphalt that's out there. So these are all decisions you could pretty easily make, and trees would be welcome to the public. They would be welcome to your clientele. So I think these are the things we're talking about. I agree with the veneer versus stucco, fine, but it better to do it well and with the budget that you have.
I'll chime in just to, sorry to interrupt the discussion. It's great discussion. Just to help maybe frame as it continues. It sounds like there's a general comfort level with a lot of what's being proposed, but then there sounds like there's a pretty harsh line that's being drawn as far as like the landscaping and wanting to make sure that that's accounted for. I think just as this discussion continues, it could be helpful to consider a continuance to allow the applicant to come back with a revised plan rather than a denial that would then put them in a holding pattern for the year, full year. So just want to throw that out there and then let the conversation continue.
So, okay, so just to technically, so if we deny, then they can't come back for a year. If we continue,
correct, and then they have an empty pool sitting there, and that's
so if they continue, they can move forward.
they can present a revised
come back
plan.
to a revised plan as soon as possible, and then we can
Exactly.
approve that.
Exactly.
Well, I would go ahead.
Kind of a question for you then, Levi. In this case, would a possibility be to say, okay, as a part of a motion or a resolution, to say that they go in and fill in the pool, start that work is there, and then on the other points, move it to a continuance for them to come back and address the other issues in that regard. The other thing that with it that I would like to see in that is that, at the end of 2022 and in January and July or June of 2023, we've addressed this particular project. And just as a point, I think that Pam was referring to, that we've agreed and put forward or approved a particular course of action with those, that when they come back, they're ready to commit to the proposals that they're going to do. and in particular, not have to address changes, to the things that we here have agreed upon and set forth in our resolutions. So.
So I think
So I guess my first part of my question, can we do
part of it and
part of it is fill in the pool, the others continuance to come to move on a way forward?
I guess a question that sounds similar to, I believe, I don't know if it's you all, I'm actually a little unfamiliar with the process. Some grading and things is sometimes allowed before people even come to us, which I think is a little iffy just because sometimes they make changes that can affect trees and things like that. But I think what we're saying is pool or no pool, we don't really care. But we do want appropriate plans moving forward the next time it comes to us. I would say that's out of our say whether or not planning or whoever allows them to go forward with some of those preliminary changes, like filling in the pool.
so entitlement comes first. So that's the stage that we're at. And that's what the architectural review permits the entitlement for the project. So essentially none of that's able to really happen until, the overall project's been approved by this group. I think to answer committee member Hunter's question, as far as it would be very difficult to get to a point today where we can approve the pool to be filled in, but come back with the rest of it. As it's all proposed in a single permit amendment, that would, you could approve a portion of it and then not the rest of it, but then the applicant would be required to apply for an additional permit amendment. So I think it'd be in the best interest of the applicant to probably give them an opportunity to quickly revise plans, turn something around to this group for review. I think one of the things that I've heard that in the discussion is the original plan was approved with roughly a 2.5 foot offset with that wall to the public right of way to account for that planting space based on the plans that were approved. That's what it shows. So the applicant stated today in the meeting that the wall was built to a point where there was no room for that planting to actually take place outside the right of way. Staff would like to verify that and would like to verify the location of the construction of that wall because that's an important detail.
Okay. It sounds like you guys have some work to do too then.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I think continuance is our best option.
All right.
Yeah, but I want to be clear what we're asking. For
I
them
think that
in
would
the
be very
course of this
helpful.
Continuance, and I think we need to see a professional plan presented. We don't want to see sketches like this. We want to see a landscape plan. We want to see the property lines. We want to see where a tree is called out. We want to see where planting is called out. And I think we need to be clear that we're willing to entertain some of the things on this list, like filling in the pool, like the 7-foot fence at the property line, even some of these infringements where the fence is crawled up over 5 feet. Personally, just me personally, I'm unwilling to accept a plan that doesn't accommodate landscaping and greenery on this site. So if that means I'm not willing to accept a plan that doesn't reincorporate some of those green elements and not in a substantive manner. And I'm saying substantive because what you've done is you've taken a large landscape element out, i.e. the pool, and you've replaced it with hardscape. So in that sense, it's almost more important that we have a greater degree of landscaping on the project. So what comes back to us if, take a shot at your 7-foot garbage enclosure, definitely. It sounds like I haven't heard anyone saying they have a problem with filling in the pool. But me personally, I want to see a plan that shows how you're going to landscape this site.
And we were, saying come back quickly. That's what the continuance we hope helps you do that, but not too quickly. Because again, we want to have something that feels like we can trust that you've verified yourselves with whatever professionals are required to go through all these checklists so that we all feel confident that what's there is there moving forward.
Yeah, Mr. Patel would like to make
Well, I think we have to reopen.
Well, we can reopen if I'd like to.
We got another committee member.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And just to that end, professional rendering drawings that include all of these aspects, that makes sense to me. So we have something to compare the end product with, or just to have a real comprehensive idea of what it's going to look like. So the concept sounds good. And I agree with the landscaping and the need to continue to maintain beauty on that corridor. And I think, yeah, just making sure we know what the actual plan is and what it will look like, because right now we just don't know particularly.
So I'd like to invite Mr. Patel back up to speak for a couple of minutes, and then we'll open it up for public comment one more time.
Thank you very much for giving me a few seconds. As a owner of the property, I really request you humbly, if you can just give me the permission to just start filling up the pool, because I'm getting so much bad negatives, reviews, impact my business, losing my money, and plus city also losing the money by revenue, taxes and everything, because they're taking a pictures. Even we advertise that we do not have a pool, people taking a pictures from the fans, that it's like that. So at least if we can start filling up the pool, only one thing, rest of the things I totally understand that I need to present the plans, but just filling up the pool with the dirt on it, I request that if you can permit today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patel. This committee didn't give you permission to fill in the pool or to remove the pool. So it's really not in our purview to say, yeah, it's okay to do this one thing. It's very complicated, this process. We're going to give you a continuance. We're not going to deny, so you don't have to wait a whole year. We want you to come back as fast as possible with a nice plan that has some great landscaping stuff, including filling in the pool. And so you can get moving on this project. But it's not our fault that you made the decision without consulting with the city to fill in the pool or to remove the pool or to destroy the pool in a way that's so. I'm sorry for your bad negative reviews, but that's out of our hands. Thank you.
So last things, you require, so I'm understanding correctly, you guys required to get the new plan drawn with the architect review, with the same plan that I requesting the 5 feet, 4 inch. Are you guys have any problem with that? That my question is. If I present it again, the same, I'm presenting the same thing that I have like a little this much tall pillar that you want me to remove that one, because that's the only reason not removing that pillar size, I'm removing my pool.
Staff says it's 5'11".
No,
You say it's 5'4".
Yes, 5'4".
Well, the staff says it's 5'11", and they've measured it with a tape measure, I'm sure. So we approved a 5-foot fence.
Yes.
So why didn't you just make a 5-foot fence?
Okay. Because the Munra Street goes down and it's going, but so from the Munra side, not a single one, it's more than a 5. 100%, I guarantee that one. It is inside it, my property. It is inside my property. It's not outside. And I made a mistake. I agree that we did. But my concern also, I'm sorry, I'm bringing up my frustration, but sorry about that. The building department came 4 times. They check everything, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Why they did not stop at that time? They could just come and look and just go. I'm sorry, it's my mistake. But as a building permit, the guy come and inspected, that everything goes well.
Mm-hmm.
Why they did not stop in that 4 months period while it's going on?
It's impossible for the building department to take every possible measurement of every
So that's
site
why I'm
element.
taking my fault. That's why I said I
know,
totally understand that I did is my mistake, that I have to be careful.
Yeah, but it sort of sounds like
but-
you're turning that on the building department. You can't really do that because to a certain degree, when the building department sees an approved set of plans from the planning department, they entrust that you're building to those standards.
Okay.
And they're not going to go out there with a measuring tape and measure that the fence is 5 feet tall all around every time they come out. So I don't think we can genuinely say that it's the building department's fault that this, it took 4 months to get this caught.
Take the fault. It's my fault. But like, that's why I'm requesting that if it is like a 2 inches or 3 inches above, if I try to tear it down, it's totally, I have to tear the whole thing because it's not going to match the construction.
If I may, I think that the committee's already indicated they're not as concerned with the increased height of the fence. And
We also don't know if you're going to come back with that with the new plans. You might remove, there's a lot of pieces. It sounds like they're going to confirm if it's built close to the property line or not. I mean, there's all these different pieces. You may come back to us and say it's gone because we don't have a pool anymore. So you tear it down and just put up beautiful hedges and trees and things instead. We don't know that. So again, it is, I think we've said that we're not that 4 inches here and there. The general aesthetic and what it looks like and how it is, that's what matters more to us. That's not a public health and safety thing that we'd be very concerned with. So in general, we're pretty lenient and flexible with things, but we do want to trust what we're being given and handed, and that's an agreement. We've made a contract with each other that you're going to build what we've approved. And that's important to us.
And I think you're going to have to get a surveyor out there to figure out how close your new fence has been built to your property line. So if you have to do that, you probably, because it sounds like there's a bit of
it's all built. It's done.
I know it's all built, but do we know exactly where the property line is?
Oh
because
yes, I did it is inside my property line.
Because
That
if you're
is
going to get a
100%.
surveyor, it sounds like there's a little bit of discrepancy between what staff is saying, how high the fence is, and what you're saying, how high the fence is. I would squash that debate by getting someone to shoot the height of the fence and tell us exactly how tall it is. Because if it really is 3 or 4 inches, I think that's something that's a little different than
8 inches.
Or
12,
11
sorry, like
Yeah.
11 or 12 inches, that's sort of a slight, that's an egregiously incorrect height. 3 or 4 inches, we could chalk up to the slope of the site, but it's incumbent on you as the applicant to tell us exactly how tall that fence is, and it needs to be an accurate accounting.
Okay, we try our best to give you as soon as possible everything, whatever you're asking for.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to open up just a public comment in the room or online one more time. Spencer.
No
anybody?
attendees with
Okay.
their hands.
So it sounds like we're moving towards a continuance on this. And I don't even know how to word that.
sure, you would just we just be looking for a motion to continue this item to a date uncertain. And then if we could fold that direction that was previously provided into that motion,
No, we're done. Sorry.
then that'd be helpful for the applicant.
It sounded like Ed, you had a
Go for it.
hankering.
All right.
All right, so I move to continue 1200 Mooners Avenue permit amendment PA 24-0115 to a undetermined date. And I would, and is it?
Second.
Anyway, second. Okay, all those in favor?
And before we
Aye.
vote, just to if we can, we'll do a roll call just to capture this
Okay,
vote.
roll call.
If we can just, again, just so the motion clearly captures the design direction that we're providing to the
Okay, So it
applicant.
was the 6 bullet points that Justin had up on his iPad.
And I can try to, I've been thinking, took some notes, so I can try to capture it if
Okay, so.
committee member Polly wants, or
This motion, Justin.
So we'll make a motion to continue the project until an unknown date. And the client is to submit a landscape plan, site plan of the proposed improvements of the parcel that include the height of the fence at the trash enclosure, that include the height of all the fencing around the now filled in pool, that includes the extent of the pool that's been filled in, and also the landscaping that's around the pool, and also incorporates the landscape elements that were originally improved and possibly expands on then giving the amount of increased hardscape
Materials
and a material palette.
has changed.
perfect.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right,
Did
and
you
we're gonna
want-
do,
Did you want to include the topographic survey in that? Or
Sure.
you mentioned?
I mean, it-
Well,
that.
I mean,
generally-
are there markers, like is staff comfortable with the location of the fence, that it's within the property, or was the fence built?
We would like to verify, the plans that were submitted, both of it originally and with the permit amendment, show that there is it's supposed to be offset by about 2.5 feet. But yeah, given what was stated today at the meeting, staff would like to verify that in the field.
So we want to survey the property.
okay, so that's part of the conditions. And who seconded? Second, okay. We're gonna do a roll call vote. Committee member Hunter.
Aye.
Committee member Ostavar.
Aye.
Committee member Polly.
Hi.
Committee member Sanders. And, sorry, Palmer, yeah.
Aye.
And I am an aye, so it's continued. Thank you. Come back with plans. We're gonna move on to confirm annual appointments for chair and vice chair. Is that correct? That's next.
That's next.
So, and we have to do a vote on that. So I'm
Yes.
stepping down. My year's up. I think Justin has agreed to take over. So do we do a motion or we just take a vote?
You can
Well-
motion.
Okay, I move that I, go ahead.
I was gonna say, thank you for your services.
Yeah.
Chair.
Well,
This-
yeah,
We
I
do
know,
have to-
We appreciate it.
I,
Gone by quickly.
We do
has
have
gone
to
by
take
really
public
quickly.
comment.
What's it, say again?
We have to at least take public comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have to give the community an opportunity to air their grievances on your last year as chair.
So I'd like to open the floor for public comment, either online or in the room.
There are no attendees online.
All right, let's move on. I just want to say thank you for, committee members, Shelley, who left today. And it's been good. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be on the committee. And, but Justin will be doing a great job. So thanks, Justin.
If that's the case, I
And
move
who's-
that
oh,
we
who's
approve.
vice chair? Who's
Vice chair would be the next senior, would be
Senior,
I am.
seniority? Was that,
Really?
is that?
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
you?
that-
No, I was,
He's already- he was already
I'm
chair.
past, I've already been chair.
You can't do it again.
Well, I can, but I have to stay here for 7 more years. I don't know if that's gonna happen.
So
So-
Brian, are you okay with being vice chair?
Sure, I'll learn as I go.
So I move that or I propose or nominate committee member Polly as the new chair and committee member Paya Mostavar as vice chair for the coming year.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Sorry. Sorry. Opposed, no. There's a Robert's Rules of Orders for Idiots. I highly recommend it.
Is that what you're looking at right
All right, thank you, everybody.
They give us that thing.
They give you that thing. You just follow this. All right. Do we have anything coming up? We have another meeting. I see it. Is there anything on the agenda for 2 weeks?
No, just that the city council adopted the updated housing element and other general plan updates like the circulation element, land use element, and safety element. And the draft housing element was submitted to the state for their approval,
Great.
and we haven't heard back yet.
Okay, well, fingers crossed.
August 4th, was it? When, or 5th? Oh, okay. Was it an expedited review? No. And I'd like to welcome committee member Gabriel Sanders to the ARC. I don't know if you want to say something or.
Please do.
Well, thanks for this first
Yeah.
meeting. They're in all this month.
That was a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was interesting. I learned a lot, and I hope to contribute something here and there. You'll find that perspective comes from.
Your mic.
Turn your mic on.
Did none of that count? Fun meeting, thanks. Yeah, you'll find a lot of my perspective comes from the work I've done the last few years around housing policy. I've probably been annoying these guys a little bit with public comment in the past. and now I'm on this side. So hopefully it'll be annoying other people. And hopefully providing some perspective around, again, increasing capacity for residential use inside the city where applicable, as far as the architectural review committee is concerned. So, but otherwise, I will do my best to serve public from whatever perspective I have as a resident of the city, and continue to learn from the folks who've been here for a while. So thanks for bringing me into your fold. Well, I guess it wasn't really your choice. So.
Surprise to me.
Yeah.
A nice surprise.
Pleasure's all mine though. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Adjourn? All right. Thank you, guys.